You're listening to Just Another Solar Podcast, bringing you the latest news and influential voices from Australia's solar industry. This episode is brought to you by iStore, Australia's leading electrification company. From heat pumps to solar inverters, batteries and EV chargers, iStore connects it all on one smart platform. Check them out at istore.net.au.
Welcome back to Just Another Solar Podcast with Luke Beattie, that's me. Karl Jensen, g'day Karl.
Luke, how are you? Can't give you a comment on Melbourne's weather today because obviously we're in Sydney, which has turned on a mixture of weather for us. We got drenched the first day, roasted the second, haven't seen daylight today.
Always with the weather report, and actually good that we're on the same stage together here at the Smart Energy Conference. So it's been a really good couple of days. We're going to go into the show and other things, but we've also got the amazing Jess MacPherson. G'day, Jess.
Hey, mate, how's it going? I can't believe it. We're here, we're on stage, we're all together. We proved that we actually exist in the same place at the same time. That's pretty
good. And we actually get along too. We were hanging out. We went to the gala dinner last night. We're hanging out, and I'm like, you're not bad people. You're actually really good people too.
It's a good mix. It's a good mix.
And industry legend Nigel Morris. G'day, Nigel.
G'day, mate. Good to see you all again in the bright lights of today. And our 8 fans, they're all here.
All 1, 2. I think it's 6, actually.
Yeah,
it's 6.
No, it is good to be here. And it's been a good show. It's been a good show, hasn't it?
It's been a great show. And I think we should jump into a few topics about the show and some of the things we've seen as well. I've been a bit of a tart at this show, guys. So I was very fortunate that we had Chris Bowen here yesterday. So Chris gave a presentation, which we might go into a little bit. Nigel, you caught some of it and asked a question there. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I got a question in. I was very lucky, actually, because they only took 4 in the plenary, but I managed to slip one in. And from memory, it was there's tens of thousands of small and medium solar businesses out there. There's, tens of thousands of employees in our industry. On the back of this battery announcement, what advice have you got for them? And so what I was trying to get from him was a sense of how we can all survive over the next few weeks and months if they do get in power, if they don't win, what does it all mean? And just to follow it up, and I won't drop his name, but just to follow it up, I bumped into someone very, very senior from a very senior government department who has a big impact on this, whose name I can't mention, on the way to dinner last night, and had a bit of a chat, and it actually backed up everything that Minister Bowen was saying, in that the departments who are going to roll this scheme out, should it proceed and should Albanese win the election, have been working on this for months, right? The regulations, the mechanical methods, the processes, the systems, they are very prepared. Every curly question I threw at him, he had an answer for, which was great to hear. And his view was, look, even if the current government doesn't win, we think it's odds on that there's still going to be a battery program, so we're still proceeding because we think we're probably going to need it. So that was really encouraging.
International man of mystery, Nigel. You can't drop this person's name.
And on Bowie's comments, on his response, his answer was, keep going. Get them installed, get it happening.
Did you feel the passion, though? Like, he's actually genuine about supporting industry, about getting batteries installed. It's not just someone announcing policy for the sake of votes.
Totally. I really enjoyed that as well, that he made it very clear that, getting it started on July 1st is lightning speed. And I think he's right, it is unfortunate to have to wait, but that's a really quick turnaround.
But imagine come July, it's going to be massive for the industry. We also hosted him on our stand. So there was a whole battery showcase in the media and they were doing that stuff. I'm just astounded at how much they can just roll out. He was on the stage rolling it out. He's in front of the media doing it. He came and got to give him the whole spiel on iStore and electrification. And then I cracked a joke because I think he needed a smile.
Risky.
And you're cracking it again to try and get a better response here.
Maybe I'll get a response here. So I said, okay, so we've got our inverters, batteries, EV chargers, heat pumps. We're just waiting on the integration of the small modular reactors.
Nice.
He gave a polite laugh. It wasn't that funny. And thank you. There's a couple of people laughing out of our 6 audience members.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, it's a decent turnout.
It is.
Come on,
It is.
Thanks for
come on.
coming.
Might be 30
Thanks for
there,
coming.
yeah.
Yay!
I know Pat Southwell, Solar Sidekicks, is in the front row.
Yeah.
I think he's critiquing us, though. He looks like
Yeah, he's taking notes.
I think we're going to get marked. We're going to get like what are we, like a B- at the moment? Yeah, gotcha.
So last night was a pretty big one, Luke. There was the gala dinner that we had a front row table, and we were seated with some amazing people from the solar industry, some that you know, Nigel, that got an award.
I mean, you're summing the whole night up into the one big event of the evening, which was, God bless her, Kathleen Ryan, inducted into the Solar Hall of Fame. Kathleen and I have worked together for 25 years. She is a weapon in solar. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do when she retires, and she's announced her retirement. I don't know what the industry will do without her, because she just plays this incredible role that no one else plays of introducing people and getting people to meet each other, whether they like it or not. For 20-something years, it has been this amazing, I think, frankly, undervalued until last night role that she plays, where she's thinking about the people, she's thinking about their families, their well-being, she's building connections with people, and for 20-something years.
She was genuinely surprised, though. And she had tears, and she had the flowers. She's like, I don't deserve this. Like,
And she only thanked one person, Nigel. She only thanked one person. It was Nigel Morris. Nigel Morris got a personal thank
You know, I didn't realize that you guys weren't actually married until a long time after meeting you.
That's a good one.
My wife refers to her as my other wife.
Yeah.
And we have arguably spent more time together in the last 25 years than my actual wife. I love you,
Can
Claire.
I ask your favourite?
Yeah, which
Is
of
that
your
awkward?
wives do you
Well,
like
actually-
better?
That's a joke.
And we got to say, while on the topic, big congratulations to the Springers as well.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys are legends, but you could see that it was an amazing night. It's inaugural awards.
was buzzing,
The room
wasn't
was
it?
packed.
Yeah.
400 people
Yeah.
sold out. Yesterday, everyone's looking for tickets.
Yep.
We turned up there. When the Springers got announced, I think they're the most loved in the industry because the room just went electric.
Yeah.
Some of the other awards, polite claps, and the MC was Dr. Karl, the other Dr. Karl,
The other
not our
Dr.
one.
Carl.
Which Dr. Karl is your favourite?
Sorry,
Very
Jets.
good. Very good.
Hey, there's not much I can't answer. I listened to that show and I think, geez, you need to lift your game, Dr. Karl.
Whoa. Wow.
All right, so I'm going to leave it with you, Karl. What have you observed around the show? What's been interesting? What are your takeaways from here?
Let's see, there's a lot of batteries here. There's a lot of heat pumps here, which is good. It's good to have some competitors in the heat pump space. It means that there's more people talking to their customers about buying them. Ultimately, I think that the economics of batteries wasn't viable before. It is viable with that rebate. And I hear people saying, we're going to max it out. We're going to put in 50 kilowatt hours worth of storage and we're going to hook up all of our customers to Amber. That might be a little bit scary. And I don't.
What do you mean scary? What are you talking about?
Scary. You've still got a grid connection limit. We can only shift it to the grid at 15 kilowatts three-phase or 5 kilowatts single-phase. Those are things that have to be considered. And we're still talking about a solid chunk of change here.
Well. Dynamic connections, much bigger than that. We're starting to see that already. That's the beauty of dynamic, where you can go above that stupid 5 kilowatt limit. You can go, Jess, you know.
Yeah, SA Power Networks just very recently are adjusting things so that you can install bigger without needing to have an MPU.
Yep.
So you still needed to have the grid study done, which is what's required in SA and I think a lot of states. But, it turns it from a 9K additional cost to, maybe 4.5,
And
5K
we're
cost.
going to CC pods nationally, right? So the Common Smart Inverter Protocol.
Yep.
I spoke to Peter from Synergy before in WA, and he said it's coming. So
Absolutely.
AMO said by spring they want all the networks to be adopting it. So that smart integration at the inverter level means that we can do a whole lot more to control it. So the limits that we once had, maybe they're not going to be there because we've got the smart controls.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. We're seeing. I mean, I've spoken to installers in Queensland who contacted us and said, we put in our normal application for a 5 kilowatt system, and the network came back and said, look, you can put 15 on if you want. And the installer said, they must have made a mistake, and went back to them and they went, no. With dynamic, you can lift it to 15 on
Why
single
would
phase.
you
We'll
argue
take
about
it.
that?
We'll
Yeah.
take it. Right? So this is the beauty. This is the most, and we haven't even touched on India. We've got to come back to India because this is what I learned in India as well. But this is the beauty of dynamic control. When you get these dynamic controls in, the bulk of the time, and there's been network studies, we've talked about this before, but there are network studies that show that the bulk of the time they can take all of that generation and they can lift the system size dramatically.
Could be a bit of a struggle for Pat, who's going out and inspecting these things, when he finds someone's connected 15 kilowatts worth of inverter with 60 amp, 70 amp, 80 amp breaker to an 80 amp board that's got a 60 amp feed from the street.
I know. Talking about breaker limits is your favourite subject, Carl, and it's valid.
Do we need Jeff up here? Should we get?
I can see Jeff Bragg over there too. G'day, Jeff. That was a great episode, by the way, Jeff.
Yeah.
Circuit breakers, bro.
I'm envisaging those emojis with the melty face everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back. You mentioned India, Nige. Last
yeah.
episode you weren't there. We had Finn Peacock. Great conversation.
Terrific episode.
And Nigel Morris, you were jet lagged or sleeping or in your dressing gown. I think I saw on social media with Mr. Pickles, your dog. Tell us about India, mate.
Oh, wonderful opportunity, and I'll give you the short version because I've chatted to lots of people already about it. But I was lucky enough to go with the Smart Energy Council on Austrade delegation for 9 days over to India. We went to New Delhi. We went to Ahmedabad, which is Prime Minister Modi's home state. We did everything from business roundtables with other solar businesses who are already operational in India. We met with the High Commissioner. We met with the Austrade. We met with ministers, various ministers of energy, state ministers. We met with the national grid. It was like the equivalent of kind of AEMO here.
So that's like the SEC is just open all those doors.
Opening all those doors. And here's the deal. Australia needs another major trading partner other than China for energy security reasons, right? We need to diversify a bit more. And the government has chosen India. And so that's why there's this big push in to try and get bilateral trade going. So Austrade were wonderful, wonderful hosts. Meetings, academics, business, roundtables, politicians, local members, you name it.
And John Grimes was just doing John Grimes things, right?
Grimes, he was on fire, and I'll tell you one little story because we had this wonderful roundtable, and he said, look, he was offered to introduce himself, and he said, these are our delegates from Australia. You're going to hear from them. My name's John Grimes, and I'm here from the future. We are here because we know what India is about to face. So just to put it in context, India's national grid is about 500 gigawatts currently. They're going to add 500 gigawatts of renewables in 2 years.
My goodness.
The 10 million, Modi came out with a plan about 8 months ago, which was the 10 million solar rooftop program.
This is the short version, Nige?
Sorry.
Jess has got
the watch out.
I got the word count.
It's a big story, right?
It's good.
Going.
It's good. No.
Massive.
But
I can't even process that.
10 million.
Small scale in Australia is what, 3 gig per year?
That's
installed.
right. That's right. They're going to do 500 in 2 years. They're going to do 10 million systems. They already whacked 1 million in 8 months. And there's made in India clauses. So, of course, factories are popping up everywhere. So just to give you a sense of how much it was fizzing on and how big it already is, I met with one solar installer, retailer in India, well-established company, good backing. Turns out the CEO is someone who I know really well from Australia. Went visited them. They already had a dashboard. They got 7 factories where they manufacture all their hardware. I said, tell me about your channel to market. How do you get your products out to market India? That must be a challenge. He said, no. 66,000 dealers already in place. 1,200 wholesalers and 66,000
process that
dealers.
scale.
1.4 billion people, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
and shit done.
That's right. And the thing that blew me away was I was going, well, who can afford solar in India, right? We all have this perception of India being a very poor country. There are 40% of India's 1.6 billion people are middle class, and they can afford to buy a 3 kilowatt system and an electric vehicle and have 5 or 6 air conditioners on their house. So the middle class is 700 million people plus.
Which is what we saw with China, right? The emerging middle class push that up. So
Huge.
What is the trade, though? So we have skills, we have IP. What are we giving in that direction?
Yeah, so again, I'll try and keep it as brief as I can so Jess is looking
watching.
at me. Yeah. Number one, we know the policy mechanisms that don't work, right? We can show them the policy mechanisms that don't work. So at the highest level, we're really working with them, and the Smart Energy Council is working with them, saying, put these policy mechanisms in place. CSIP as an example. Don't make the mistakes that Victoria made, for example. Number two, you need to train a couple of million people, probably. So our friend Jeff was there working on behalf of the Smart Energy Council saying, we've got accreditation programs, we've got training programs, we've got all this experience with all that so we can bring that. And then, of course, you're going to need some hardware and some technology transferred over there through IP transactions and trade deals to try and get some of this hardware into the market that can bring the smarts that we've got in Australia to the Indian market. And by the way, you've probably got some good products that we'd love to bring back to Australia.
Do you know a guy there, Nigel?
No, a couple of guys now.
But I
Catch
think,
power, maybe.
yeah. Well, how much was it a business trip for you in the end? So the very interesting opening speech, including people from the Pacific Islands, I think was really telling. In terms of they really want to learn from us and what we've done, and we talk about it a lot on the podcast in terms of we wish Victoria and Queensland and New South Wales had learnt from South Australia. It's the same thing. How wonderful would it be for us to allow them to skip over the mistakes and to just have it work and have it ready to go now?
If we move quick enough, they're not going to get inundated by sea levels that are rising.
Yes,
right? They've got a real emergency. We're talking about, natural disasters that are becoming more frequent. Once in 100-year events are happening every other year. They're talking about being inundated with water and losing parts of their country to it. So there's a real push and impetus. That's one good thing that we do export. Nigel, you imported something from India, though. Tell us the story.
Customs
What did you import?
What?
What did you import, Nigel?
Go there. There's no need to go there.
Contraband.
No,
What's an amoeba? Anyway, I think amoeba. Anyway, Nigel was at a SER event in Adelaide. He was feeling a bit crook. Sorry to tell this story.
Ambulance
I
ride,
drove him
really
home.
quite sick. And I said, what was up, Nigel? He's on the mend. And you said, it's an amoeba. I thought that's like part of evolution. Or what? They're in the ocean. What's an amoeba?
A sea creature.
How do you get an amoeba, Nigel?
Well, what the doctor said was because I'd eaten really well in great places and always bottled everything, and the diet is a challenge when you're not used to such a different diet, albeit the food was wonderful. The conclusion that they came to was I'm trying to stay fit. And so I was swimming in the hotel pools every day, twice a day. And most of the hotel pools are in the open air. They're on the rooftop of the hotels. And so he said, our guess is it was probably an amoeba that you picked up in the pool.
There you go. It's not solar, guys, but just interesting.
Yeah, good solar news. Good solar news.
What else have you seen around the show, Jess? What stood out for you?
I think everyone's just talking about batteries. Everyone's talking about the batteries and the rebate. That's been the big thing. That's what.
What's your take on it? Do you think? We were quite critical of how the WA government did their announcement. So it's a similar to what we've seen nationally. Battery installs came to a standstill. We're given a start date of 1st of July. So really, that's come to a standstill. The first 2 weeks were the oh shit moment that we've seen nationally at the moment. And then companies adapted and they're like, what can we do today? Can we do a hybrid inverter? How do we plan this? Really bridging that gap. Do you think that the feds have got it right in terms of how they've approached it?
I just don't know I don't know what more we could ask for. Aside from backdating, which, absolutely would be wonderful. I agree. But, at the end of the day, they want to get voted in. It's fair enough, right?
Yeah, my battery's 6 months old. No one knows that it's there. So surely I can get a rebate.
But I think just one of those ones where, the first thing I did when I heard about it was I called my mom and I said, put some money away for a battery. This is the time. It makes sense to do.
I reckon they've actually done this because of CSIP or because of the backstop measure in Victoria. We've installed 25,000 systems in the last few months that nobody knows about.
I reckon it's a good chance. Is there anyone out here who's got some comments and they'd like to come on the podcast and talk about the battery scheme? Thoughts, good, bad, or otherwise?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, come on. We don't bite. Who wants to go?
We might bite.
I can put Alex on the spot.
Put him on the
Alex,
spot.
good value.
Alex,
what are your thoughts, mate? What have you been thinking?
Look, I think it's just a really good opportunity for future growth of the business, to be honest. I know we've got a bit of a short-term pain to sort out how the hell we're going to deal with it, but if you think about it, STCs have driven the solar market for, 15 years now, roughly. Hasn't slowed down. It's going to continue to grow right up into 2030 and probably after that as well. I see this just as a launch platform for batteries to get in and for people to be able to adapt them affordably.
Have you been inundated since the announcement? Have you had customers delay installs? What's it look like for you guys?
We're taking a couple of different strategies based on the customer. So you've got the option to install now, not turn it on. Some people are opting to do that, and we're pushing for them to get installed in June, right? Because then we've got hundreds of batteries we're going to have to switch on in a very short time frame.
How are you going to pay for them?
Pay for that.
The batteries?
So this is the thing we're working out now. So basically we're having a frank conversation with the customer at the start saying, look, are you going to get a battery regardless of the rebate? If they say yes, then they purchase the battery full cost, and then we're going to refund the subsidy once it comes through. If someone's unsure, well, then we put them in a different pipeline of someone that's going to actually be installed after the rebate's announced in May, and then we can, start to structure it that way. But there needs to be multiple plans for all customers.
Has anyone thought about how they're going to get the stock?
For us, we're just really, this is why I'm here right now. To be honest, I wasn't planning to come to the SCC this year until the battery subsidy was announced, and obviously that put an urgency factor in for us to talk to all of our manufacturers, wholesalers, figure out what the pipeline looks like and get it squared away now.
I happened to talk to a fairly decent sized business operator, and he said to me that they've already got containers ordered being manufactured, and I think to myself, I know that particular manufacturer perhaps doesn't have the production capacity for everybody, so I think a lot of people are going to miss out, particularly in the June-July scenario, if they don't do something right now.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're creating urgency with our customers about as well, because you can have that conversation with them. It's the truth fact that there's going to be a demand issue, a supply and demand, so get in sooner. If you're definitely going to do that battery technology, let's do it now, and then we'll get the benefit of it afterwards. We can't turn it on, but we're lucky enough that we've got things like Fronius with BYD, where it's quite easy to isolate that battery and not have it as a part of the system. There's different technologies out there that are going to let you stage it, I suppose, is the best way I can look at it and the best way we're going to approach it.
I love this because I was on a business growth panel earlier on today and listening to 5 different people with different perspectives on how you can grow businesses, and that's just such a great example. Full power to you, Alex.
Love Alex from I1 Energy.
Love it, because there are always ways through. And the more, that's been actually my takeaway from the whole conference, is the more people you talk to, the more you find that people are using their brains and talking with their suppliers and navigating, creating these different pipelines, as you described it, Alex, to find a way to help customers come through that pipeline in a good way and minimise the impact on your business, the negative impact.
And being really proactive, right? making sure that you're on the front foot and, you're communicating honestly with your customer and leaving the choice in their hands. Because end of the day, I don't know, somebody's going to pipe up and say, nah, the libs are getting in, just put it in now. Somebody will do it eventually. Yeah. And you just got to let them do it if
I'm
that's what they want.
I'm curious if anyone out there in the audience has got an idea of what they think is going to change to the battery market. So if we did have a 20% uptake rate with solar systems, that's 60,000 systems a year got installed with a battery last year.
Yep.
So if that's 20%. With the rebate, is it going to be 80%? It's going to be 60%? I think it's probably going to be 80%, so that's 4 times more. And then on top of that, we've got 3 million solar systems or more out there in the field, and probably 10% of those are going to want a battery. So all of a sudden, our battery business in Australia is bigger than anywhere else in the world, and we're talking...
Grimesy was saying, it was Bowen who said 1.2 million is the target, right? 1.2 million batteries.
But we can bankrupt the government.
Yeah, we were encouraged to. All of you were encouraged to.
That makes up about a quarter of installed solar in Australia. So it's around 4 million systems.
That's true. That's 25% take-up.
I think it's worth taking a step back from those numbers, though, because they're largely from STC claims. So it's going to be when there's batteries attached initially. It doesn't give us much visibility on retrofit. And agreed that it hasn't been a crazy amount of retrofit recently. Well, there will be soon. There'll be a lot more. But yeah, we don't actually know what that looks like. We do have some...
George has got a question too.
Absolutely.
Thank you. George from Rest Energy, another Tasmanian company with Alex. We're getting a good run here. I think we can also look past the batteries as well. So, yeah, there's a big buzz around batteries, but the customers are going to need the horsepower on the roof to charge these batteries. So it's a massive opportunity to then go and upsell your PV side of your business as well.
Great point.
So it's going to really lift the whole industry, not just batteries, but you can be talking to your customers now that aren't wanting to invest in that battery to the 1st of July, that can then go out and actually, you can scope out their roofs and you can actually go out there and start talking about installing the PV, depending on how much funding they've got up front. And another point I'd like to sort of make, that I guess it's the elephant in the room, and we've sort of talked about it in different areas and forums, but educating the consumer about all these sharks that are out there breeding at the moment. They would have started breeding since Sunday's announcement, getting ready to hit the water.
People, right? And I've done a couple of presses recently, George, and the question keeps coming up. Is this going to be like a pink bat scheme? And we always point to the fact that there's products assurance program. If it's under the SRES, then you're going to have to meet all these requirements and safety. But that question keeps coming up from the media and the public.
I think it won't be anywhere near as bad as the pink bat scheme. We've moved forward and we've got a lot of processes and things to prevent it from being, well, that was fatalities, but it's just that the cheaper batteries that we all know about, and those scrupulous companies that are selling batteries, there's a 1.5 kilowatt system on the roof that may not even work, but hey, the company's just sold them a 5 kilowatt battery, and then someone's gone and put it in, and it's just, I can just see it potentially being messy.
I'm worried that they haven't sold them a 5 kilowatt hour battery, that they've sold them a 50 kilowatt hour battery. And even though someone's chipped in to the tune of a third, they're still out of pocket by a hell of a lot of money, and the economic case there for grandma isn't that great.
Yeah, so I think we're all incumbent as quality companies and installers to educate the community and make them aware of what they're going into, and make them aware of the brands and the products that they're going to invest their hard-earned money. So we don't want the 80-year-old grandmother think she's got a $4,000 saving on an 11 kilowatt hour battery that's going to be absolutely useless for her.
Totally, 100%. There was an article on the ABC on the weekend about the right size battery for most Australian homes, and they said that number is 5 kilowatt hours. There was a raging debate in numerous forums as to whether that was a good number or whether it wasn't a good number. I think it's a great number, and anything more than that's really tough to use.
It's horses for courses, though. That's why smart meters, that's why if we're going to go to a two-stage install between now and when the rebate comes,
we've got some
you
data.
Can actually get that data.
Yeah.
What's the thing you say, Karl? In God we trust.
Everybody else bring data.
See, my feelings on 5 kilowatt hours being enough, I don't think that it's enough for most homes. The average home in Australia uses 20 kilowatt hours a day.
They don't use it from 3 till 9, though.
But, I mean, a lot of people use a lot of power in the evenings. If they're out of the house, they're at work, they're at school, whatever, it's just the fridge, and we should encourage these people to self-consume. That is still by far the best thing to do.
Agreed.
But if you want some blackout protection, if you've got a 20% margin in that battery that's, for a blackout, or whatever percentage you want, pick your poison. Like, that's just not a lot to go through each day.
I think we'll end up seeing 10 and 15 being the number that gets installed, simply because the cost of rolling the truck and plugging in the gear is the same whether we're doing it for 5 or 45. The truck rolls the same. The batteries are pretty good in terms of stackability. The toughest part about installing the iStore batteries, breaking down the packaging that it came in.
Yeah. Now, consumer protection's an interesting one, Nigel. There was a case from the ACCC that you wanted to make mention of, a super complaint. I don't know what that is.
Well, neither did I until I read the article. For those of you who missed it, the ABC reported a couple of days ago about its inaugural first ever super complaint. What that means is that it's escalated in the ACCC. So it goes to the ACCC. It's a complaint made about the behaviour of an entity or a company, and essentially that super complaint is supposed to be dealt with in a much shorter period of time. It's supposed to get much more senior notice. The complaint was made, I'm going to name them because the ABC already named them. The company was called GC Perfect Solar, formerly Green Engineering. They were pinged and the subject of this super complaint as a consequence of essentially overselling. They had an aged pensioner who was sold a system. It didn't deliver what they said it would deliver. It was on finance. The finance payments were higher than they were promised. So there was just a whole lot of promises made that shouldn't have been made. And it was encouraging in the article actually to see that Bright cancelled the contract. And Bright said no. And no longer deal with this company apparently. So they tried to do the right thing by the consumer, but the solar company is now sending debt collectors trying to get this money. So it's a horrible, horrible story. It's been dragging on for a year. He's still in the courts, in fact.
And the headline was quite provocative, like I never should have let the salesman through the door kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it breaks our heart, doesn't it? Like, to hear that it's still happening.
And it wasn't even, Luke mentioned before, it wasn't even a door knocking one. This one
It was a Facebook ad.
It was a Facebook ad, and we've all seen them, right? We've all seen them. Prolific Facebook ads, a lot of them generated by entities who are just creating leads and then selling them to multiple solar companies around the country. And someone just clicked on that bait. And then before they knew it, they had a door knocker who just oversold it, sold it poorly, and failed to deliver. So we are now, our industry now is the proud recipient of the first ever super complaint to the ACCC, which is a bit sad, really.
Serves them right. That's a great example of why we shouldn't do that with the batteries and be selling people, little old ladies, 50 kilowatt hour batteries and saying, you're going to make a fortune on amber, because you might not. Scary shit.
Well, you're not going to be making anything on amber with a 5 kilowatt hour. Sorry, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on.
Jess, do you want to put the mic back to George for a sec to get his last comment on that?
I totally agree with that, and it gets back to state by state and company by company on how they're managing it in their local regulations that are going to govern the rollout. We don't have CSIP in Tasmania yet.
It's coming. Surely it's coming. AEMO said it's coming everywhere.
It probably will come.
Yeah, you get a lot of hydro.
We do have hydro, and we've got the ability to shut the hydro gates off a lot quicker than what you do to be able to ramp down coal-fired power stations, but we are connected to the NEM, so we are sort of caught up in the...
There was a bit going on there with that transmission line recently. Didn't the company that runs the transmission line go broke?
I heard rumours. I can't confirm that. It was more about the second Marinus interconnector that seems to be put on hold, from what I can gather, because it's just
they can't make any money.
They can't make any money out of it. No.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense from a Tasmanian's point of view, and there's a lot of groundswell that we shouldn't even be connected to the NEM. Look, that's a whole new debate. We're not going to go
Is there like a whole secessionist movement? We've got that in WA where they're like, we just want to separate from the mainland.
Just
We've got the resources. We just need to build a big fence.
Well, for anyone listening, that's the only DC transmission line in Australia. So there's an AC to DC onshore at both ends. And, of course, 8 years ago, we broke it, we melted under the sea, took a year to fix.
Yeah, we cooked it, just working too hard to empty our dams to get the credits back, the carbon credits, while we were making clean energy. That's why we cooked it.
Yeah.
So if we kept the dams full and at a manageable level, we wouldn't have that issue. But anyway, that's a bit political as well. That'll
Politics
be my last
and
comment.
energy, who would have thought?
Thank you,
New
Jess.
thing.
Thanks, George. I'm going to go for a bit of a rove.
Oh,
and
yeah?
there's,
Do I
this
get my
isn't for a
seat
hand
back?
up, but
That's pretty
we've got Pat
exciting.
Southwell from the Solar Sidekicks podcast. The Southwell Inspections. How's the show been for you, man?
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks, Luke. I trust you're well today.
Trust you well too. What's something that stood out to you from the show?
For me, it's the battery rebate. It's been the buzzword. We've all spoken all about it. And I feel like, I just mentioned in a session I was in before that we haven't really, the industry hasn't really grown that much in the last few years. And I think this is a real opportunity for the industry to grow, for people to be able to make a bit more money again and to, move towards this energy transition. So there's a real buzz around, I reckon, about this rebate. And yeah, really looking forward to getting cracking into it. I want to do it in a safe way, of course. I'm all about safety. And I also think it's a really good opportunity now for all the other states, rather than Victoria, to look at mandatory inspections, because you're looking at how many million batteries are going to be going in. And
1.2.
1.2 million. There we go. That's a lot of batteries.
Have we got enough inspectors?
Well, they need to be trained up, probably, I would say.
You're going to need a bigger truck, Pat.
Well, speaking of which, Pat, we did talk about your truck, and I think you should go and buy one of those BYD Shark things.
You reckon the BYD?
I reckon it's a good start. There's nothing else. You can't buy a Cybertruck yet, so it's a good start.
There's a Ford over in the hall over here that's worth a look. It's based on the Ford Ranger hybrid, only small battery.
Hybrid?
I wouldn't do a hybrid either. But there's the Ford fully electric Ford Transits over there. That might suit you better.
Transit could be better.
Throw your swag in the back.
I don't know.
There's a bus over there. You can just grab the bus.
The semi.
Yeah, the semi.
Well, from the Sidekicks podcast, if anyone was wondering, Pat asked me what should he get, given that he's got to put a ladder on the roof, and that does complicate matters if you're looking at an electric car, because a little Kia EV3 probably not going to cut it.
No, that's right.
Just a curiosity, everybody here, are they regular listeners? Put your hands up.
Oh,
regular
yeah.
listeners.
Oh, look at that.
And people that don't normally listen to
Well,
us.
that's everyone else, Carl.
I've said this.
yeah.
I've said this so many times. I really don't realize that people listen to the podcast. Like, I just get up and have a yap every fortnight, and then it's been really
We've been
lovely.
getting some real fan mail about Jess. Since Jess came, it's so amazing.
Because I'm whipping the
Round
boys
of
into
applause
shape.
for
But it's
Jess.
actually
No.
thousands of downloads a month. But Minister Bowen said yesterday, I said, I'm from iStore and Just Another Solar Podcast. He goes, oh, listen to that. He said, I don't listen to it religiously.
There you go.
But he said, just a touch point for the industry.
Yep.
And I'm
Well,
like,
if you're
I'll take that.
listening,
That's cool.
Bowie, love your work, mate.
Now, speaking of fans, last night we met a super fan. I have to say,
Super fan.
number one fan was how Amelia described it. Is Amelia out there?
Amelia's
I
not
don't.
here.
She's not here.
He's not
Devo.
here. Our number one fan couldn't make it along.
She couldn't
Massive shout out.
couldn't
What a
make it.
sweetheart.
Huge. She was able to recite episodes, which was lovely but odd.
Oh, you scared, Nigel? I want to jump back on Pat's comment about inspections, if I may. I think that it's a lot of resources to be inspecting every single system, and unfortunately it does slow down the process a little bit, but I do think it's so important. I think there's a middle ground where the inspections are happening frequently enough that people feel like it could be everyone, but not so, that it's a bit more manageable. And I actually think that Tesla does a very good job of it. They don't audit every single inspection, but they do audit quite frequently, and they are very strict in their audits and give you the report. I think that would be a really good model to go off of.
I think anything better than what we've got now would be a step forward. I just really do like the model in Victoria where it's not just about signing systems off and giving defects and all that sort of thing. When a prescribed job comes to a licensed electrical inspector, they are then casting their eyes over the system, and it's another set of eyes that they can help the installer with. So you might have an installer who is installing a new product or something like that, or they're in a bit of a weird situation. First thing they do is call their inspector and say, what would you do in this situation? Can we work together? Sometimes I'll say, I don't know. Let's go work it out together. And then it's a consultation between both of us, and it's someone else who's in your corner who wants to get the same result as you. Like, I don't just go flying off defects to all of my installers. What I will do is sit down with them, work it out together, and it's then a joint effort, and then all of our balls are on the line.
I'd like to see a joint effort from the industry to put all the warning labels on a plaque that goes next to the battery rather than plastering the battery with labels.
That's a good one.
I do ask people put pictures of our products and send it to us on our Instagram and that sort of stuff so we can share them around. And when you see some horrors, you're like, wow, man, take that down. Looks so bad.
I think it's the Kennedys. I think the Kennedys said to me that you are basically like their QA, right? And, our installers are human beings, and they've got a lot of stuff to do. They've got a lot of photos to take multiple times of the same photo.
Do we need multiple more layers as a battery scheme comes? Do we need more? It's almost,
No.
it's already overkill. So how many more layers can we put there and still operate businesses efficiently?
Yeah, it's hard because, so we get our installers to take photos for us as well, and then they have to take their photos for their STC trading and whatever else. And a lot of the time it's doubling off, and it's just a lot to ask for while they've, got a board open, right? They're trying to be electricians and not get electrocuted and whatever.
I quite like this. For those who are listening, I'm sitting down in the audience at the moment because we've got Stephen. Do you want to tell us where you're from, and do you have some comments to make?
Hi everyone, I'm from the Australian Electric Vehicle Association. This is the second
welcome.
time I've been to this show. Last year we were having 3 stalls here. Today I'm just enjoying the space and learning new stuff. So I've just discovered your podcast. I'll be listening to it with interest. Recently had a Tesla Powerwall installed, and I when they took photos of the installation, I said, this is good quality control. And I feel more reassured that they're doing this as a qualification that they've done the right stuff through the manufacturer. They did say that they couldn't install the Powerwall in the garage because of this bollard that I've got, which is going to take half the space.
You need mechanical protection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
I've always said that it's a good idea to keep batteries and inverters outside. Of the 3 or 4 house fires I've been to, 2 have been total losses and inverters in garages, and 2 of them have been fine because the inverter's been on the outside of the house when it's caught fire and it hasn't burnt the house down.
But not all battery solutions have the IP rating to go everywhere outside, right?
Pick a battery that does.
Yep.
Pick a piece of electronics that does better in the sun, though. Like, it's if it's being adequately protected outside, for sure, absolutely. But any piece of electronics, it doesn't have to be solar related. Like, if it's getting hot, it is not working as well, and it's not lasting as long.
Oh, look, these things are pretty heavy. So at the end of the day, a 15 kilowatt hour battery weighs 150 kilos, and if it's painted white, it sits at ambient temperature. It doesn't move.
Question is, as an owner of solar panels, I've just added 15 kilowatts on top of my 5 kilowatt system.
Mate.
I think the issue I have is retrofitting, and you're always concerned someone's going to climb up there and do something that's going to create a massive problem with leakage. The other thing is, a lot of installers, they don't want to be connected with the bird proofing. Why is that? Because it's something that it should be incorporated in the design.
Most people don't need it. So
my house needed it.
Yeah, but if your house needs it, then that's a special case. But I'd say 99% of solar systems don't need bird proofing. And from what I've seen, the bird proofing that has been applied, it's been sketchy.
Yep. And I'd also add that I know learnt a lesson from a good bunch of guys up in Queensland, the award-winning Springers Solar. They actually had a roof fire caused by a bird netting. So if you do get someone to come in and do protection around your solar panels, make sure it's stainless steel, not plastic. The roof fire that was caused on one of the Springers jobs that they went to turned out to be caused by the plastic around that bird netting catching fire. So watch out for that.
I think, like, for our business, we don't do bird proofing either, and we take longevity of systems very seriously. So it's not like it's almost like not a light decision. But what it comes down to for us is that these are specialized solar electricians, and the amount it feels bad to charge a customer at that kind of labor rate for what somebody who's just a bit more of a general tradesperson can do. But it is important that it's done right. It's the same with panel cleaning. Like, we'll clean panels when we're doing testing and checking of systems. Our service team does quite a lot of that kind of work. And we'll clean the panels because we want to see what the results are when those panels are at their best. We want to give the system some longevity. But in truth, we're charging a customer quite a lot, or we're doing a service at a loss to put those electricians on the roof that have these special qualifications.
So I'm here with Jeff Bragg from the SAA, and you're involved in CPD points. Are we going to see CPD courses for bird proofing?
I hope not. I think we've got enough on our plate. I'm looking forward to going around talking more about battery installation, probably for the next 5 years, I would imagine. There's lots to solar and maintenance and all of those things, and there will be courses about maintenance. In fact, there was a course yesterday that GSES ran about fault finding and maintenance, which is actually a really good thing to be looking at, because we all kind of get dragged into that. We've got more and more PV and battery systems out there that need looking at and problem solving. So yeah, diversity in CPD training is great, but I reckon a lot of it's going to be about batteries and getting our compliance levels up.
The bigger challenge too is the retrofits. So many leads that are coming in and inquiries. Some of them are fairly new systems, 2-year-old systems, but we're seeing a lot of the 10-year plus systems coming up where clearly not going to be installed to the AS5033. Can we plug these panels into a new inverter? Can we add strings? What can we do to bring it up? I mean, that's a massive challenge we're going to face.
Absolutely, and it brings into play how much as an installer do you want to be dragged into the responsibility for a previous installation. So, the array might be in reasonable condition, but as you say, not compliant to the current 5033. So do you sort of want to touch it, repair it in some way to try and bring it up to standards? But then it becomes your responsibility as the installer. So we're going to see more of that. But obviously, if you've got an inverter that's been sitting there for, 9 years and it's given good service, but at the point of adding a battery, is it really time to start thinking about, well, maybe we leave that old inverter, we take it down, and we bring in a new hybrid?
Is it? I mean, it's supposed to be the same topology. So if it's a transformerless inverter before and it's a transformerless hybrid now, can I just pull that inverter off the wall, throw it away, hang a hybrid, chuck the battery in there, and call it good?
Well, theoretically, but then what about the network application? You're substantially changing the operation of the system. So in my area, you definitely want to be looking at a new grid connection application. You've got all the batteries, control systems. Later this year it'll be CSIP and so on. So there's always a move to bring things to the current standard, and of course networks are going to be quite specific about what they'll allow and what they won't allow, and they'll always want an application.
Do you feel that there's going to be people out there that'll say it's going to take me just as much time to redo it as it will to just do a brand new system? And or there's no money in relabeling the conduit or whatever, I may as well just replace it?
That's true. It's certainly about old arrays. My experience is that some customers just say, look, it's still working. I know it's only a 3 kilowatt array, but I've got room on my roof. I want to expand, but I want to keep those panels because they could be there for another 10 years.
Yeah, waste not, want not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is what the core of our industry is about: sustainability and doing the right thing. And so if you've got a product that was good, that's working, that electrically tests okay, that's safe, that perhaps does need rewiring, and it might not make cost sense, but there are people who will pay to make sure we're not chucking stuff away into landfill, or hopefully not.
I talked to the recycling guys. They were next to the iStore stand, and they reckon an old 170-watt panel has got $50 worth of silver in it, and a new 440's got about $6 worth of silver in it. So rip them off. Let's recycle them. Let's get that silver back, put it back in the loop in better panels.
I still need a place to drop them off in my area. None of our local councils have got collection facilities at all yet. In 4 local councils
I reckon if
I've got a stack of them at home.
$50 worth of silver in the panel, stop sending them to third world countries. That's a shitload of money. Well, resource.
Yeah, well, for what it's worth, I bumped into an old colleague who's over that end of the hall. There's actually 3 or 4 PV recyclers down that end of the hall, 2 of which...
That end of the hall for the home listeners.
It's to the left. It's to the left. Visuals. But they're down there for those who are here. And it was really interesting. They were saying the same sort of thing. They reckon it may be $40. Same sort of number though. And the challenge they've got is it's currently costing them, a little bit more than that to recycle them. So
that's the story they told you.
Yeah.
So that they can charge you to take it away.
That's right. So we've still got some challenges, but there are some funds helping to get that recycling in place, and you can certainly get it done in some
places.
Next
is definitely going to be battery recycling. When people look at the cycle life of these batteries, and they say, 70% in 10 years, I can tell you that's going to be a real number. Between the fleet of Teslas with 600,000 Ks on it, I reckon they lose 1% a year just sitting there doing nothing, and then they lose another 1% for every 300 cycles. So 3 cycles a year, 10 years, it's going to be down at 70%. So that might be an idea for you, Jess, to sell that slightly bigger battery, because in 10 years it's only going to be 70% of what you put in today if you're cycling it.
And the ecosystems is really hard, right? If you have already invested in battery and you want to expand it because of this exciting opportunity, but you can't get those cells anymore. They don't make these ones anymore. That's going to be a really big challenge.
Lack of retrofit's been huge. I was chatting to Jordan yesterday, who used to be with Q Cells, and he said even while they were still active in the market, the problem was they had this size battery, that size battery. They weren't compatible with each other, and then they'll move on. So someone's got a battery, it's not really expandable because you can't find anything in market to upgrade it. And I think there's a bit of that goes on.
Well, lots of LG stuff too, right? Yeah. Can't get a new LG module for your existing thing. Have to jump on Facebook and hunt around, and with a bit of luck, someone's got one sitting in a corner. You pay $5,000 for it and find out it doesn't work.
And it's amazing. They've still got that recall going. I saw the ad on TV the other day. How long's that recall been going for?
Yeah, long time.
Years.
Does anyone remember the
Powerball
one?
I've been in the industry for 4 years, and it was going when I started. So
you're a veteran. Young
Does anyone remember the
Powerball a shit
one?
about our age today, Jess? I'm impressed.
Not yet. We still got time. We got time.
Anyone remember the Powerball one? We air freighted one of the first ones out at Solar Game, and it sat on the shelf waiting for compatibility with the Fronius Simo hybrid. And it ended up getting sold to industry legend Jack Long for his own house.
That was my
And of
first
course,
week in the business.
It was
I sold
dead.
to Longy.
It was dead. It owed the business $30,000, and at 2 years old, it had died.
To their credit, Tesla replaced it under warranty and took care of Jack Long. So,
Well,
big
only
tip there.
because it was Jack Long. Otherwise,
did-
it would have been a big mess.
Did Longy, did he offer to do a Tesla tattoo or?
I don't know. I don't know if he's got room left. So we're going to have to wrap up soon. I'm going to go around the group and we can have our last comments. And if there's anyone
And we've got
out
an
there
announcement.
that
And we've
wants
got
to
an
talk-
announcement to make.
Oh, we've got an. I forgot about this.
Get on the announcement night.
Okay, so we announced our winner podcast competition a few episodes back. We announced last episode that we had no entrants to date.
Yep.
But apparently we have an entrant.
We have an entrant over a sneaky beer the other night, and I'm going to get up and wander down. Over a sneaky beer the other night, we were talking to someone who said, is that competition still open? Because, we've got this idea. So we're very excited to announce Rest Energy. George is down here. We're very excited. Oh, yeah, excellent move over.
And he's put a bit of work count in this episode too, Nigel. So he's already...
It took several beers to get the whole story from these guys, but
You suffered through it, Nigel.
I suffered through the beers. Very impressive story, which is why we're really super excited. What we're going to do is we're going to help get you guys set up with some hosting facilities. We're going to give you the benefit of all Luke's wisdom and time, some of his time and mine to help get you guys rolling. Why do you want to do a podcast?
Well, the next morning I wondered the same thing after those beers had worn off.
Have you had a few today for courage?
Was it touch courage? That was all. No, just touch courage. Are we giving away a podcast? No.
I think
No, it's
I've
great,
listened
George.
to you guys too much and thought, this looks pretty easy. I can have a crack at that. And then thought, hello. No, look, just I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be able to bring some local content as well to our state and our listeners, and be an advocate for sort of quality in our industry and bringing in guests, like you guys have within Tasmania, and try and really build a bit of groundswell and knowledge out there for the community and some of our customers, especially with this battery rebate coming on.
Yeah. So when we were chatting the other night, one of the questions I think I had for you was, what's the goal that you want out of this podcast? What do you actually want to deliver? And you described to me the fact that what you felt was missing was this ability for consumers to just get some good, honest, unbiased advice. Is that what you're going for with your podcast?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we talked about, I'm not going to mention company names, but we all start out of the ground somewhere, and we've all done stuff back when I've 15 years nearly now, and we've all got to start somewhere in the industry. And you look back at some of the installations and the companies that you may have installed for, and you think, we can do better than that now. We've come down the track. We've all come down the highway a lot further, and there's an opportunity now for established companies, and I'll talk about Tasmania, just to actually launch themselves off the back of this battery rebate, and hopefully keep some of those sharks out of the state that we've seen in the panel industry back in the years. So that's sort of what I want to aim at. I don't know how I'll go. I don't know sort of.
Well,
what
you're going to give it a crack, George.
I'm going to give it a crack.
That education piece around batteries is going to be massive for all of us.
That's how we started, Luke. That's how we started. We got sick of telling people the same story every day at the start of COVID as to why the cost of panels had doubled. And we decided we might as well record a podcast. And then when someone said, why do the panels go up? Just listen to the podcast, mate. I can't be bothered telling you.
Guys, we've got a few minutes left.
Hold on, one thing I need to know. Is it going to be just another solar podcast? Or
No, I can't copy. It's copyright, surely.
I don't think it's
What about that,
trademark.
It's not trademarked. You could actually pinch it from us if you want.
Yeah.
Just another honest Tassie solar podcast.
We can workshop
come up
it.
with
George,
something
we'll-
with
I
it.
reckon you should call it the battery brief.
Oh yeah.
Call it the
I
battery
like it.
brief.
Short and brief.
We'll help get the hosting set up and all that stuff. And good luck with it, man. And we'll be here to help out. It's no different to when Pat started his Solar Sidekicks. Excellent podcast. Love listening to it. And the other ones, it's good to get the voices out there. It's the education piece. Sometimes it's for the end consumers, but sometimes, like, we speak to industry. We speak to solar companies. We speak to solar installers. That's our lane, and that's what we love doing. We're going to have to wrap it up shortly. My last comments are this. Smart Energy Council, through and through, have been supporting the industry. So massive congratulations to John Grimes, Wayne Smith, Tim Lammercraft and all their crew, amazing crew. It was a great show. And just for everything they do in the industry, it's been great. So that's my last comments. Nige, last comments?
Last comment. Yeah, terrific show. Second your comments. I'm going to give a different shout out because I was at SEA in Adelaide last week. SEA have got more road shows coming up. If you haven't been, one day of your life, quality, great opportunity to learn stuff. Go to SEA.
Very good. Last comments, Jess.
Last comments. I think it was either McCarthy or Warner who said that like this could be the opportunity, like the high feed-in tariffs were, and it's time to sort of really dig in, get ready.
Wasn't it good to
prepared.
catch up with them last
So
night?
good.
There was a few drinks, and there was McCarthy, Warner, Sam Kraft. So good to see Sam and a whole bunch of other legends.
Yeah.
I just
feel
walked
very
in there
lucky.
and went, I'm not getting out of here easily.
No, but so that, really knuckle in, make sure you're ready, make sure your installers have their battery accreditation, make sure you have a good proactive plan. And then my last thing is just to say I am so lucky. I get to learn from the best people in the industry. I really feel very set up for success. And yeah, I appreciate every single person who's given me advice. And yeah, I'm so very, very lucky. That's me.
What an industry. Karl.
I've got, don't forget the electrification message. So it's really hard to sell a 27 kilowatt system to someone that uses 10 kilowatt hours a day. Once I build the demand for them, I take away the gas from their house, I take away their gas hot water, and I shift those things over to heat pumps. I nearly triple their demand for electricity in Melbourne. Even though I halve their overall energy demand, they don't have to buy that gas from somebody else. When I take their petrol car away and I put an electric car in the garage, I increase their consumption by 20 kilowatt hours for every 100 Ks they do. Or an easier way to put it, if they're spending $50 a week on petrol, they're going to need 50 kilowatt hours out of their solar system. And I've got that opportunity to have that discussion with them, selling them that battery that I haven't really seen them for the last 10 years. And a whole lot of things change, and I can do the whole job while I'm there. So it's not just a battery opportunity, it is another solar opportunity, it is an electrification opportunity, and it's an opportunity to tell them to go and buy an EV.
Great message. What a time to be in the industry. I mean, they call it the solar coaster, the ups, the highs, the lows, but I feel that we're on the precipice of the next revolution in the industry. So it's so exciting. Thank you to all of you for coming here and having a listen. We're doing the silent disco thing. For those who don't know, everyone's got headphones on. Thank you so much for coming out. And thanks to you all for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, share it round. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Hey!
Hey.